Hello everyone and welcome back to the last session on structures. In this particular video, we are going to look at two important concepts of structures. The first one is array of structures and the second one is how functions and structures are related to each other. Let us first focus on array of structures. Now what we have done so far is we have learned how to declare and initialize a set of structure variables individually. But in order to declare or initialize a set of structure variables at a time in a single statement rather than one by one, C language permits an array of structures where each element of an array represents a different structure variable. Using arrays of structures is similar to using arrays of anything else, which we have already studied earlier in the topic called as arrays. There is no matter which way we declare our structure variables. Remember one thing, we can just use the normal array notation. And that's what you see in the syntax. I have this normal array notation, right? So I have name of an array and followed by the size or dimension that is actually enclosed in the pair of opening and closing square brackets. So in an array of structures, each element of an array is actually of structure type. So the syntax is the struct is a keyword followed by the name of the structure, that is up to this place, and then followed by blank space. You have name of an array. Again, you have the dimension enclosed in square brackets, right? Now, in order to understand this concept of structures much better, let us directly jump into and develop a program which makes use of this concept called as array of structures. Now, the program that is there for you is implement the structures to read, write, and compute the average marks and the student scoring above and below the average marks for a class of n students, right? So what it says is enter number of students and then you enter their marks, and once you enter their marks, find out the average marks, and after finding the average marks, what you should say is you should display the students who score above and below that particular average. So for this, we are going to make use of not only structure but also an array, right? So let us have a look at the code that is already developed for you. So this is my structure. I am just putting it outside main because it is declared as global. So name struct student, right? So student is actually the name of the structure. Then I have name, which is a character array. So I'm going to store the name of my 50 students. The name is 50 dimension, right? The maximum length for a name will be 50. Then roll number, then I have marks, and then I have grade, which is again a character array. Now coming to my main, look at this statement, struct student s of 100. Now this is called as array of structure where the name of the structure is student and name of an array is s, right? And it can hold maximum of 100 students. So the text that I have highlighted in yellow color is how an array of structures is declared. And these are the stuffs related to the program. Now what I'll do is I'll just have this program in my online compiler, and then we will compile, execute it, and also try to understand how it actually works. I have the code with me right now. I have this enter number of students that will be entered in line number 16, and then I'm going to enter the information of those many students, right? So this particular for loop from line number 18 to line number 29 will help me to enter the information of n number of students, and then line number 30 onwards till 38 will actually display the students details that is already entered earlier. line number 39 and 40 will calculate the total sum, right? The total marks obtained by all the students. And line number 42 will find the average of that. And once I find the average in line number 42, I am again using my for loop here. Now this particular for loop will display the names of students, right? Names of students who have scored more than the average. That I am comparing here in line number 47, where I am telling if s of I dot marks is greater than average, right? And similarly, I am displaying the students who have scored actually below average, right? Now the only thing is how we are actually trying to go about in developing the code for array of structures. Now, as I told some times back, that S is a name of an array which can hold a maximum of 100 students, right? So look at your line number 18. I have an index variable or loop control variable I, which starts from 0 and goes up to less than n. N is the number of students that I'm going to enter through line number 16. So let us say I enter 10 students. So 0 to 10 is what the information I am going to enter. That is 0 to 9, a total of 10 students. Now, when I becomes 0, I'm going to enter the information of I plus 1 student. That is 0 plus 1, that is 1 student, right? So for 1 student, right, I can slightly change this and have a better way of putting my printf. So I can now say that it will say for student 1. Now for student 1, you enter the roll number. That whatever the roll number you enter, that will be stored in s of I dot roll. Now what is I? It is 0. So the first student's roll number will be stored in s of 0, okay, dot roll. Understand, right? This is where the first student's information will be stored. Similarly, the first student roll number, okay, sorry, the first student's name will be stored in s of 0 dot name. Okay. Similarly, his marks or her marks, the student's marks will be stored in s of 0 dot marks, and grade will be stored in s of 0 dot grade. And then I plus plus will make it as 1. The control will go inside. Now 1 plus 1 becomes 2, and you are telling enter the information for student number 2. So the roll number of the second student will be stored in s of 1 dot roll, and name will be stored in s of 1 dot name. Marks will be stored in s of 1 dot marks, and grade will be stored in s of 1 dot grade. Okay. So similarly, you can give the information for any number of students, right, as you wish. But keep in mind, as of now, the limit is only for 100 students, because 100 is my dimension of an array. So let me remove this. That will pose problem for our compilation. Now what happens? I'm going to display the same information, right? And then you are going to calculate the marks here. Now sum is equal to sum plus s of I marks. Now sum is initialized to 0 in line number 13. So now what happens is, when I becomes 0, right? When I becomes 0, it will be sum plus s of 0 dot marks, right? Now you already have marks of the first student, which is stored in s of 0 dot marks. So that will be added. Then I plus plus becomes 1. Then it will be sum is equal to sum plus s of 1 dot marks. Again, you know, the second student marks is stored in s of 1 dot marks. And then finally, this particular line number 39 and 40 will add the marks of all the n number of students which you have entered, and line number 42 will find out its average. The average is displayed here in line number 43, and then from line number 44 till 49, that will be responsible to display the students who have scored more than average. Similarly, line number 50 to 55 will be responsible to display the names of the students who have scored less than average. Now let us compile this program. Okay, so here it gets, right? So enter the number of students. So what I'll do is I'll enter information of 2 students, and then it is asking me for entering the information of the first student. So I'll just enter the roll number as 11, and then I'll enter the name as A, and then let me say I'll enter the marks as 68. Okay, and then it will ask me for a grade. I just enter B grade, and then it will ask me for information about student number 2. Right now, roll number for student 2 is, I mean, the second student is, let us say, 12. The name is BBB, and then let us say the marks is how much, 34, and then the grade is actually D grade. Now watch out carefully what happens. See here, this is what I have entered up to here. Now line number, you have seen this line number 29, which will display the information of the students. I am getting it here, right? So displaying the information of students. So you see a roll number for student 1, the roll number is 11, the name is AAAA, the marks is 68, and the grade is B. Similarly, for student 2, the roll number is 12, name is BBB, marks is 34, and the grade is D. Right? Now, the total marks obtained by these 2 students is 68 plus 34, which is equal to 112. Now, the average marks of, 102, the average marks of the student is 51, right? Now look at the first student, his marks is 68, which is above average, and the second student marks is 34, which is below average, right? And the name of the first student, or name of the student who has scored above average, is AAAA, right? So look at this, student who has scored above average is AAAA, and student who has scored above average is BBB, right? So this is how basically the program works. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to just have a quick glance on the program. Okay, so let's come back to our Microsoft Word and then continue from where we have stopped. Now the next point is structures and functions in C. Now earlier we already studied the concept hidden behind functions. Let us see how functions and structures are related to each other. Like any other data types, right, we can also pass structures as arguments to the function. We have already seen earlier how we can pass parameters to a function, and the parameters can be of any data type. It can be an integer, it can be a character, it can be a float, it can be even an array, right? We have already seen. So in fact, we can also pass individual members, structure variables, or probably a pointer to a structure to the function. And similarly, the functions can return either an individual member or structure variables or pointers to the structures. Let us look at the first one, that is called as passing structure members as arguments to function. So as usual, I have my global structure declaration, and print struct is my user defined function where I am doing the prototype declaration here, and then I have this print struct which takes 3 parameters. The first one is the character array, the second one is the roll number, and the third one is marks. And then I am directly initializing the value of the structure in this particular line, and then I am calling the user defined function with 3 parameters, right? So the first parameter is a character array, which you see here. So this is character array, that is Amar. Now if you try to recollect the structure initialization which we have done in the previous session, right? Now this is the name of a structure stu, and then this is a member element name, and hence stu.name, correct? This one stu.name becomes the first parameter, which is nothing but Amar. Similarly, stu.roll number, which is second parameter, and stu.marks, which is nothing but a third parameter, right? So this is my function call. The control comes here. This is my entire function definition. And in function definition, I'm just trying to print the name, roll number, and marks, which are sent as a parameter to the function. So let me just take this stuff to the online compiler. Things becomes more easier when we actually put it in the form of a code. So I think I have this now. All right, so let me compile for you. Yeah, so that's what I get the output. I get the name as Amar, roll number as 1, and marks as 85, right? So this is what you mean to say that passing structure member. See here, line number 13, right? Now this is a pure example of passing structure members as arguments to the function, right? Structure members, right? Now you see this name, roll number, and marks. They are all member elements, and this we are passing as a parameter to the user defined function, that is print struct. So this is the place where I am passing structure members as arguments to the function. So just have a quick glance on the code. Okay. Now, the next one is passing structure variables as arguments to the function. This is the second type of passing mechanism for the structures, where I'm going to pass the structure variables as arguments to the function. Okay, so directly let us take this code and put it in the compiler so that we can directly understand how the concept of structure variable when it acts as a parameter to the function. Okay, so just look at this. Now, there's nothing much change as compared to the previous program. The only thing is the change is only with respect to the parameter passing, right? Now, in the previous program, we actually passed the members of the structure. That's why we had totally 3 parameters, right? But here we are actually passing the structure variable, right? And my structure variable is stu. So there is only one parameter, that is called as struct student stu, right? Now, whenever I say structure variable stu, you know very well all the member elements which are part of that particular structure variable will be taken into consideration, and that is what you see in line number 13, right? Stu is the only parameter that is passed, which is nothing but a structure variable. And all these things you are aware how to access the member elements with the help of the dot operator. So let us compile and run this program, and let us see what is the output. Yeah, so that's the output. You have name as Amar, roll number as 1, and marks as 85. There's no change in the output, but the only difference is in the earlier case, we had actually passed the members as a parameter, and in this particular case, we are passing the structure variable as a parameter, right? So that is the fundamental difference. And it also tells that you can have anything as a parameter to the function, right? You can have a structure member elements, you can pass structure variables. As a matter of fact, you can also pass pointer to a structure and try to do more and more large sophisticated problems or programs in the world of C language. So I'll just give you a couple of seconds to have a quick glance on this particular code. Okay, now let's move and try to wind out this particular topic, right? Let us see what are the applications of structures, right? Even though structures are widely used in the programming language, it has got its feature that can be used to develop large and complicated problem statements. Some of the applications of structures that I have put forward in front of you is database management, employee management, library management, accounting transaction, general applications of structures. And apart from that, something that goes beyond the academics as of now is other applications like changing the size of the cursor, drawing the graphic shapes on the screen, finding list of peripherals attached to the system, interacting with your input device called as mouse, then hiding the file from the directory, and quite good number of applications that can be developed. But let me honestly tell you that this is certainly an impressive list, right? But it is not the end of the list, actually, right? I have just displayed, or I have just highlighted a couple of applications, but list looks to be very impressive, but it is not the end of it, right? There are so many applications that can be developed using the concept of structures. And this impressive list is at least impressive enough to make you people realize how important a data type like structures is in the world of programming language. And let me tell you, to be thorough with it, if you intend to program any of the above applications, right? If you feel that you want to master structures, take off from this particular place where I'm going to leave you now, and then try to develop any application, or probably more number of applications, some of which are listed in front of you. And that is where you can always master not only the topic but also the entire programming language as such. So let me finally give you the concluding remarks of structures. That is where you see the conclusion that I have written. Let me put it, even though it's there in the form of points, let me tell you what are those points all about. Actually, structures in C is a very interesting way to cluster and group all user-defined member variables and functions into one entity. I think you agree with that. Now, that is what makes it a more modular program, which is easier to modify because its design makes things more compact. We have also seen features of structures which lead to programming convenience. The programming concepts like arrays, functions, and pointers can be clubbed with structures to develop more varieties of problems. So many data structures like linked list, trees. Of course, you are going to study in your higher semester subject called as data structures using C, right? So these type of data structures are implemented in C using structures which are actually called as self-referential structures.